BC, I'm curious because you're always so stinking even keeled. So it's interesting. Did you leave Los Angeles and think, man, these players got to play better? Because that doesn't seem like your style. But there were a lot of plays left out there on Saturday.
Yeah, I left there thinking of all the one-on-ones that were won by USC, basically. And really, you could find examples on each side of the ball. Dana Holgorsen cited a few with the running game. I think there's a couple plays Dylan would definitely like back that people probably have dissected already on your show for the last few days. But then on defense, it's like guys have been saying, it wasn't like, except for the one miscommunication, guys were just wildly beat or out of place. But it's just like come on, get that ball. Like that second touchdown should have been a pick. I felt they gave him two gifts, Maeva on the first touchdown drive. And that was probably my biggest disappointment, Damon, was that game was literally in their grasp and they just let it go through it. And they also let a young quarterback really off the hook. He gave them an opportunity, honestly, for 3 or 4 picks in that game.
He had 6 interception-worthy balls.
Yeah, I probably downplayed it. It was very much
4 of them were in the first
game.
3 drives,
and they scored on 2 of them.
Yeah.
Nebraska
could have thrown a knockout punch. Nebraska could have thrown a knockout punch early.
You know the one we're kind of – so there's 2 things we're kind of sleeping on, BC. One, Buddha Wright may have had the second easiest one on the little check down where he threw it behind him.
Mm-hmm.
But I think Buddha was kind of worried about he's in man-to-man.
They want to make sure he got the tackle.
So, and it's hard in man because man-to-man isn't for picks normally. Zone is. But there's that one. And then Bear not scoring off that scoop and score, I felt like we're pretty understated.
Yes. That's a good point. I thought so too when it happened, and I only got to watch it back one other time, but live I thought, couldn't a Bear got in on that?
Yeah.
And when your offense has especially been kind of stumbling around in the red zone, you just gotta take advantage of those plays to the fullest. So yeah, it goes all around, and I guess it's the beauty in a way of sports is that everybody after a win or a loss can look at themselves and find something. If I had done this a little bit better in this matchup, my team maybe gets over the top. And I think everybody over there probably can do that on each side of the ball. So it's not any pointing the fingers or anything, but it definitely is a game where you walked out of there thinking, another missed opportunity for Nebraska. And it wasn't just because USC had overwhelming talent or anything like that. Nebraska was there. They just didn't make the play when they were there. And that feels like why they're 5-5. I mean, this could easily be a 7-win team or something like that if more one-on-ones had been made. And I remember a quote Matt Rule said talking about his coordinators, even when Sat was in that seat. He said, the job of the coordinators, I want them at this level, you're going to have to settle for one-on-one matchups. That's good. Like if you get the one-on-one, that's where your player has to go win it. And that's what Nebraska did not do on Saturday.
BC, I'm curious what you thought of the talent there, because you brought that up with USC where it didn't look to be overwhelmingly more than what Nebraska has, but that is objectively a team with a lot of talent. I don't want to speak for you, but the way that comes off to me is that you don't tend to think that talent is the issue for Nebraska right now.
Not really. I mean, I didn't watch that game and think like Nebraska can't hang with these guys at this spot or that spot. I felt like they were there all game long, and especially in the trenches, probably had more to go on than USC. Thought the O-line played pretty well, as has been said by all the coaches. For the most part, I was encouraged, that they did get the running game going in the third quarter where you're averaging almost 8 per carry, I think, on the first 8 rushes. So there's a lot of good stuff. But yeah, to what you're saying, Ravi, I don't think this is a deal where we're just saying, oh, you got to upgrade here and there. It's just guys they got to come through in those clutch moments. These games, we're in the mini NFL now where these things are going to come down to 4 to 6 plays, that can swing a game dramatically. And maybe it is Mekhi Bear running in that fumble. Maybe that tips it Nebraska's way, or Dylan recognizing Jamal Banks on that third down when he popped open. It's all those things where you're just that one play where it feeds the guy next to you to the next play and all that stuff. So I thought that was a bigger deal than the talent. Yes.
Hey, so BC, when you're kind of watching that game unfold, and I checked stat broadcasts about 3/4 of the way through the third quarter, I'm like, man, how did Nebraska pull back even in terms of time of possession and some other things that I typically don't care about? Like time of possession is way down there. But I only looked because offensively running the ball, it seemed like Nebraska had kind of re-seized control. Was there ever any point in that game where you thought, well, Nebraska could win this? Because it didn't feel like that early on.
Yeah, I told Brunt at halftime up in the box I thought Nebraska was going to win, and that goes against it goes against like 7 or 8 years of watching Husker football from that position, because you wouldn't necessarily believe that a good outcome is coming. But I thought, you know what, they're tied. I think USC's in their heads a little bit too much, and that's why I think it's to our first two questions here. That's why it's critical when you don't get in the end zone somehow, some way on one of those plays when you did have such a promising third quarter. Because let's see what USC does with that if they're playing from behind. If it's 24-21 Nebraska going into the final frame, what does that look like with the young quarterback and all their one-score losses? And so Nebraska couldn't quite get over the top once USC got that 21-17 lead again, where they put that complete pressure on USC that I don't know if they would have responded well to. But I was encouraged, I guess, throughout about Holgerson's, like, the rhythm and what I was seeing out of the offense. I know they missed plays and they left yards out there, but I just liked how the plays were coming in, and I felt like there was a little more like everybody knows what they're doing and where they're going here. And like there was a play on Nebraska's first drive of the second half where the protection was great. Dylan hits Banks for about 15 yards.
Oh,
Actually,
the little look in. Yeah.
Yeah, this was a drive actually that tied the game at 14. And it was just a standard play, but it was just done really well. It was crisp. The protection was good. The throw was good. The route was good. And I thought to myself, we haven't seen that. Even that, it feels like in a month. Like just a nice, like, here's a throw. It's on timing and everything looks like it's supposed to. And I feel like if they can just build on that, the solid stuff, it doesn't have to be this extraordinary, Herculean type thing. It's just doing that solid stuff well with a drumbeat of consistency. I think they can do really good things in this offense. So that's the part, guys, I did leave encouraged about. Is I know the yards and the numbers didn't look spectacular, but I just felt like way better about the procedure, the operating procedure of the offense and their rhythm.
All right. Now, you, per usual, just out of respect, you always have the green light to check me. But sometimes I feel like I want to hear what I think. But it seems like, because I've been saying this for about a month, since Indiana, somebody asked me if Coach Rule was too nice. And I said, I don't think he's too nice. I think he can go either way. He can be really cutthroat if that's the environment he's working in, or he could do it this way because I think that's ultimately what he wants to do, right? He wants to build it slow. He wants to build it steady. He wants to do it the right way. Like, I think that's at the core who he is. And when I listened to Coach Holgerson yesterday, I'm like, that's it. We've got it. He finally has, like, the alter ego, right? Where I felt like Coach Holgerson said all the things that Coach Rule would say to me, like if we were out in the parking lot having a ginger ale. You know what I mean? Did you – but he can't say that as the CEO. Did you feel like that?
Yeah, he can't say that publicly. I do think I don't think he's afraid to let guys know and get.
That's totally not what I'm just saying. That's just too finite in week 11 for a coach to say. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and Matt Rule has spoken about, like, you know how hard it is to get up here. I'm not going to point a finger at this or that. Like, you
And he had a guy that did.
Yeah, and I think it's useful. It was actually cathartic for the fan base a little bit, because there's some stuff they've been saying or thinking, and it's like, oh, this guy's saying it now, and it's, and he's wearing the logo. So
I do feel like the fans got their pound of flesh yesterday.
Yeah, they did. But the thing about what Dana said, like, for instance, the line about, these are big kids, these are big kids, and we're not, you're not blocking worth of crap. The delivery was great too. It was very, like, Midwestern, and the whole thing was just beautiful.
Midwestern.
But there's a two-parter to that, and there was a point being made that's what was said when he got here. Those kids worked really hard. Those big kids worked really hard for 2 weeks, and they were much better as blocking on the perimeter in that game than they had been in other cases. I'm sure there are misses here and there, but you saw on, like, the Bonner first down run, that was Jamal Banks as well as I've seen him block all season. Like, the job he did to help him get like 13 yards there. So one of the examples where he was very to the point was also combined with, but these guys worked hard and they're proud of it and they got something done off of that. And now you hope, like with the other points he's making, or, like the finding the holes with the running backs, and maybe it was a little bit better in the third quarter with that there's a step in this next week or two there too. So even though there was some stuff that was critical or point blank, it also hopefully is stuff that connects, because it did in one case, and hopefully in these other cases it does as well.
BC, there was another thing that Dana Holgorsen said yesterday that has gotten quite a bit of attention. Has to do with, I believe, what people are now calling Dana's secret weapon, in terms of the player that he found, as if he was hidden away in some closet somewhere. Do you have? I mean, let's just guess, because it's fun. Do you have an idea of who you think that might be?
Not really. No, I don't. What's your guys' guess?
I said
Damon probably knows.
I don't know, to be honest. I said this last night. Full disclosure, like, I don't know. I said this last night on Big Red Wrap Up. It was the first time that I had a chance to address it. And full disclosure, this is because I want to be right.
I think I know who your guy is.
And I said this at the scrimmage at 1890. I go, man, I was talking to two former players, and I said, I really like the way this player moves. He looks different. He's twitchy. He's sudden. He looks like he has a little bend. Do you know who I was talking about, BC?
I don't.
Mekhi Nelson.
Oh, you know what? If you want to back up to that guess, when was that? It was a week or two ago. Rule just kind of mentioned him within an answer, like, Mekhi Nelson can play. And it was, I think, right after Holgerson had showed up.
I'm telling you, Ravi can vouch. Mm-hmm. And I was talking, and I said it to Sam McCune after the scrimmage. I'm like, and Rashawn was there. Were a couple guys that were there, and we were talking. I'm like, man, I like this guy. Mm-hmm. Like, he's sneaky sudden. So I want to be right, because people laugh. An aforementioned player or person that I just discussed, like, laughed at me that I was dead wrong on that. And it's like week 11. It's like, oh, what happened to your guy, Mr. Running Back, connoisseur, blah, blah. So it's funny, right? It's just former players giving each other crap. But the other guy that I hope, because I spend a lot of time with him.
This is who I thought you were going to say.
Quinn Clark?
Quinn Clark, yeah.
Yeah. But my gut says Mekhi Nelson. Mm-hmm. My heart says Quinn Clark.
So you know why I thought it was Mekhi Nelson? Is because of what he said about the running backs. He goes,
but he was talking about wide receivers, so he left it pretty open-ended.
He did, but he specifically said when he was talking about running backs, he goes, we got to get some guys in there that can make plays.
But he said the thing about the player talking about the wide receivers, though.
Right. I'm just trying to prove.
Trust me, I want to be right. I want it to be Nelson.
Yeah. I mean, a big thing, too, is whenever Rule has had a conversation about the running backs basically since fall camp, it's been about who's the guy who can make that last player miss. And as you heard Holgerson.
He gave a visual. My man went, when the hole looks like this.
Yeah, he did that. He did the hand measurement.
He did the Creed with arms wide open,
So, but you know what else I loved, BC? And I had some weird moments, and I told some funny stories. I embarrassed myself in the first hour, so we're not going to revisit that. But there's a lot of running around the house and fist pumping and kind of reflecting on 25 years ago. But I say all that to say, you know what I loved that he said? Wow, the offensive line was pretty good, right? Like they tell me it's the best game that they've ran block, but I was pretty pleasantly surprised. All year, these guys have been maligned and this, that, and the other, and I'm like, I'm not exactly sure we know what we're looking at because we've had time to throw, and there have been several running lanes. I was happy that he, at least momentarily, exonerated the offensive line.
Yeah.
Because what Nebraska's doing with their talent at this level, Donnie shouldn't be maligned. He should be celebrated. Yeah. That's my feel.
Is it fair to say, Damon, do you believe so the running backs were under the microscope for like missing some holes because of Dana explained it from this last game? Do you feel like that's a representation of the whole season, or has it been a mixed bag?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, Ravi, there's a couple of these guys that I give hard times to because they've been hating on the running backs all year, but I mean, they've earned some of the criticism. They've definitely earned some of the criticism. That's code for saying Ravi is probably close to being right.
But he struggles with letting those words slip past out of his mouth.
Well, if it was anybody else, it'd be easy. If it was BC, I'd be like, BC, man, you hit a home run,
you
man.
Nailed it.
You nailed it, BC.
But he's got to see me every day, so.
Ravi kind of limped around his home run. It was like one of those can of corns that the wind blew out.
You mean like the Freddie Freeman one where I'm just kind of like limping around the bases?
But I do like EJ, though. I do like EJ a ton.
Yeah, and that's got to be the way it is, though, with the fresh set of eyes. You bring him in here for feedback. It's no good if he's just not going to give it to you straight. So I think that's another part of that whole press conference yesterday that people liked is, whether they get this rolling or not. It's like I understand why Dana's here. He's spotting some things and he's bringing some actual stuff like to the forefront of like this has just got to be better. It's not going to work if you keep playing at this level. And so I do think that was really good for the fan base. And hopefully you got coaches that take it the right way, build off of it. I've always said, as you guys know, that's a strong fraternity. I think those guys can talk tough to each other when they have to. And most guys have thick skins, and you got to have it right now because you brought Dana in here to shake it up a little bit. And if guys weren't ready for that, it's just, they aren't going to survive. So, I mean, they have to be able to adapt.
BC, just about a minute and a half here left with you. But we focused a ton on the offense because of, staff changes and everything like that. But what are you concerned about with the defense in terms of what you've seen? Because it seems like some of the guys on that side aren't executing at the level they need to either.
Yeah. It's hard because like we said at the top, it's like you're in position a lot of times. It's just you got to have that confidence or whatever it is that it's like I'm going to make this play in this moment to not panic when the ball's in the air, to play it like they probably have for most of their life. And somehow, some way in these last couple of games, that's got to be a signature of this defense again. If you go back to the first 5 games, Nebraska was barely giving up a play of 15 yards ever. I mean, if you went on and looked at the old explosive chart, the teams just didn't have them, and Nebraska was top 3 in the country. And it just feels like that's kind of fallen off a ledge, and there's been all these moments where there's been the breakdowns you wouldn't expect from experienced people. So I don't know that there's an easy answer, but you just hope that, the guys are dialed in, that they can control their emotions on this Saturday, because I do think it's an emotional day. There's a lot going on. I mean, Rule laid it out Monday. in a way, this is an end of an era type of game in some respects. In Nebraska, football's as big a part of this as any with the walk-on program. You're going to the 105-man roster in the future, and all these guys are maybe playing their last game as Huskers. You just need everybody, no matter what side of the ball they're on, control their emotions the right way. And I think Nebraska really needs to start strong and play from ahead and sort of have that confident vibe that was missing against UCLA, where you let them off the hook on like 3 third downs right away.
That's our guy, Brian Christopherson, Husker 24/7. BC, appreciate it as always.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
Thanks, B.